And we're live. How's
We
things,
are.
mate? How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. The sun is shining. As I was saying to you before, I'm laughing at all the fallout from the Super League.
Mate, it's just crazy. I can't believe how six football clubs can. I don't know. After everything that's gone on with the history and everything else, I watched Gary Neville's thoughts on it last night, and he was pretty scathing, right, about how they should be docked points and everything else. It purely is financial greed, and I think that's pretty sad that the owners of these clubs see this as a future as opposed to what's gone before. I mean, imagine a world with no Premier League and no Champions League. That'd be pretty sad times.
It is. I mean, yeah, apparently it's JP Morgan who offered them 6 billion to split between the 12 founder clubs. And that's they've just taken that money, but it should be there on merit, shouldn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's something I don't get. Like, you shouldn't be a founder club. No one should be a founder club in a league. It's either you're good enough to be in the league or you're not.
But also there's this system around. Actually, I think some of the German teams aren't in it and the French teams aren't in it. So there's like
Yeah.
this Super League. What, without PSG, without Bayern Munich, two of the biggest clubs in Europe? But that's not a Super League, then, is it? You're not. I'm sure Barcelona maybe said they were or weren't going to get involved, but yeah, it just. I don't know. It doesn't stack up to me. I just think it's such a crying shame. And I don't know. They're saying that they'll be banned from the Premier League, banned from if anyone plays in it, they won't be able to play for their country, etc. So surely that's enough for anyone to be like, no, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I feel sorry for Jose Mourinho. I mean, he worked so hard to get them qualified for the Super League, and now he's been sacked.
He hasn't gone already, is he?
Yeah.
No.
He got sacked in the morning, mate.
I haven't seen that this morning. He's been sacked.
Yeah, Mourinho's gone. It's all
happening. Blimey, just seen it. Oh, no.
I just told you.
God, Tottenham are in turmoil.
No, they're members of the Super League now, so it's fine.
Yeah, they don't need him. That's a travesty.
It's fine.
And how's the tree pledge going? All going all right?
Mate, it's we've got 14 million trees pledged, soon to be 20. We've got 6 more pledges in the pipeline. We're on target. Our goal is to double the number of pledges each month. And then when we get to the end of the year, we're going to be up to 1,000. So that's 1 billion trees. So,
1 billion trees.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to my mum about this at the weekend. How does that actually work? Because she was like, "Oh, we've got some land here. Maybe you can plant some here." I was like, "It's really sweet, but I don't think it quite works like that." Like, How does this work?
So we use the ecology.com platform, and they give money to Eden reforestation projects. So the money goes to local people in many developing countries where there are rainforests or where there were rainforests, so places like Madagascar, Mozambique. It's brilliant, because obviously the salaries are lower. They're still getting paid well, but it costs about 12 pence to plant a tree out there, and you're putting back a rainforest. And truthfully, like humanity's cut down 3 trillion trees, and there's only 6 trillion on the planet. So we need to put those 3 trillion back. It's that simple, right? To have a planet where future generations can live, we need to basically clean up our mess. We need to take down the 1.5 trillion tons of greenhouse gases, and we also need to replace the 3 trillion trees. So it's clean up your mess, basically.
And is there anyone else that's committed to plant that many trees? Obviously, planting 1 billion trees is some achievement. Is there anyone else that's really leading the charge with this ecology platform, or actually are you one of the few that's got that far?
It's all quite new. I mean, there are companies like for instance, Zurich's committed to planting 1 million, and that's nice, but Zurich have 55,000 employees. Fountain's doing 1 million, and we've got 45. So go figure. I think everyone's just starting off on their journey. So even if you just joined Ecology and planted like 10 trees a month, that's a good thing to do. So everyone just needs
some of the times when it's been like your birthday, I remember in particular, and a few other things, rather than presents, you're just like, "Oh, can you donate some trees?" Which is really cool.
Yeah, I don't need any more material things. I'm comfortable. So for now, anyone wants to get me a gift, just go to my ecology page, ecology.com/Marcus Hemsley, and plant me some trees. Be very kind.
So in terms of business growth over the last kind of month or so since we've chatted, sounds like everything's still going really well with you guys.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of Q1 was a bit slow, but we made a profit, albeit a modest one. But as long as we're not losing money, it's not the end of the world. But no, we're seeing a lot. Like the pipeline started filling up a lot in March, so I guess it's sort of it's going with lockdown.
What do you think the catalyst was for that? Because we saw a similar trend in terms of Jan and Feb were okay. March, all of a sudden, just a load of leads started coming in, particularly in the last 2 to 3 weeks and kind of into April. It's gone crazy. Why do we think that is? Is it just people are getting their confidence back as they're coming out of lockdown?
It's what historically it's following trends. I mean, I think it's probably been exaggerated by the pandemic, but it's funny. Every year, I've been in this game for about 13 years now, and every Christmas, everyone's like, "Yeah, we're going to come out all guns blazing in January." Like I've raised saying that, but then the first 2-3 weeks of January, nothing happens because everyone's just getting their feet back under the desks and getting ready. And then February's a short month, and then if financial years as well. A lot of people have their business years with the sort of financial year. So you've got new budgets coming in April, so things start picking up end of Feb, beginning of March, and but that's also been exaggerated with the fact that we're coming out of lockdown and cases are dropping in this country at least. So it's good.
Very good, mate. I've got so much to update you on. So we've been working on this new proposition around the 6 pillars of e-commerce, and I can't share too much just yet, but it's quite exciting to see the different modules coming together, including some peer-to-peer learning. We've got a community coming together. It's really nice. I guess it's taken us a long time to finally find our niche and really commit to it for a lot of time, and I'm sure many owner founders can relate to this. You go after a particular niche and then suddenly something comes along that you've got a capability in, but it's so hard to say no, right? You just say, oh yeah, we can do that, no problem. And then you think, and then you kick yourself and go, oh, why did I accept that? We're trying to just do this. And actually we've given ourselves like an 18-month window to really just eventually, over 18 months, we should just be in that niche of Shopify and e-commerce. But actually we're phasing out over time. But yeah, it's been really strong just by focusing and just by tailoring the content and everything. Suddenly you kind of, it manifests itself, and now the leads that come in are purely Shopify or 90% Shopify, and that's where we want to get to. And the relationships we've got with those guys is really strong. We're doing quite a lot of content with them. We've got a consultancy day with Cactus tomorrow, actually, as part of our Q group, which has been really good for us as an agency. And we'll be talking about our marketing plan and what we're doing, and they kind of go through this checklist. And yeah, it was nice just going back through that this morning and realizing actually, yeah, we are doing a lot of those activities that they say and mention. We're ticking a lot of those boxes. I guess the thing is that you can always do more. So just because you've ticked it, it doesn't mean it's as good as it can be. So that, I guess, is a challenge. For example, okay, you're doing this white paper. Great. You've done 4 this year. How can they even be even better? What else can you do? We're just about to finalize an e-commerce audit that we've built, which will be nice to bring to market to just show people, okay, well, this is, now you can kind of grade your business and see where you're scoring well and where you're scoring poorly and where the biggest pinch points are, because we get so many people that come to us and say, yeah, we're looking for a new site, but actually a site isn't what they need. And it's the same with when people look to drive traffic. They say, okay, well, yeah, we just need more customers. Well, as we all know, the way to get customers is not solely through just new customers, e.g. more traffic. You might be able to look at conversion and uplift it that way. So yeah, I'm hoping this audit can really start to signpost people to say, you know what, you need to double down in this part of the business because that's where you're struggling. And also trying to get businesses to think that just because you get new customers, that solves a problem here, but it could cause one over there. And we always call it that kind of whack-a-mole analogy, but you bring more people in the funnel at the top, but actually what impact does that have on logistics and operations and that kind of thing, and then after sales, etc. So just making sure that, okay, if you fix something over here, you don't break something a little bit further down the tubes. And so that's been a really interesting exercise. We're working very closely with a good friend of ours, Vince, who I introduced you to before. He's a really top chap, and we're enjoying working with him on putting something together. So hopefully that will come to market in the next couple of months, which will be exciting. But yes, I mean, in terms of the marketing sales side, it's really exciting, and there's so much going on. And just by understanding where you're going and understanding kind of what you're good at and what you're not good at has been really refreshing in terms of qualifying in and out opportunities. And just saying, yeah, we're specialists for this, but actually we're not right for this, and you should speak to somebody else. I think the strategic partnership piece has been really strong in terms of Loyalty Line, Klarna, Klaviyo, etc. Building up relationships with those guys, and then saying, actually, now you're in the ecosystem, can we help you over here? And I think in terms of agency partners, I'd be keen to get your feedback on this, but we've had some great conversations. A nice bloke called Jason up at Eastside Co. They've been really supportive. There's the guys at Blend and Adam there, had a lovely chat with him. We've had good calls with us. So it's all Shopify Plus agencies, but actually trying to shift that mindset into everyone against each other to be, you know what, there's so much opportunity for collaboration if you just know what you're good at and not good at, and you're prepared to share the love as opposed to trying to eat all the pie yourself.
It's great to hear all this, mate. It sounds like you've come on in leaps and bounds since, since I've been speaking to you for years, but I feel you're really sort of starting to go up that exponential curve. So, I mean, do you feel you're doing enough? Because it sounds like you're doing everything that you need to be doing. And my concern is that there's always the temptation, you kind of hinted at it before, of, oh, I can always do a bit more and I'd almost say you need to do a bit less but better. Do you know what I mean? I think if you continue the way you're going, you will reach all of your targets.
I think so. I think we're in danger of spreading ourselves too thin from a marketing and sales point of view. We've built out a really nice team there that kind of report into each other on a weekly basis, and we're got a kind of KPI dashboard that we look at, and you score it kind of red, amber, and green, and that's great, and that department's working nicely. But the analogy I used earlier on when I was saying about how it pushes challenges further on in the business, that's something we've got to look at is, okay, now we've got a certain type of lead. Well, what does the process look like in terms of Shopify lead? What is the fact-finding document that you send first to the client that asks for all the payment information? It asks for their billing details. It asks for the shipping details. It asks for product information and SKUs and all that good stuff. How does that now look? And is that as watertight as it could be? Plus the relationships that we've built. I mean, for years, we've built agency partners across a whole spectrum, but actually that 80-20 model has never been more relevant, e.g., 20% of our partners can probably fulfill 80% of the inquiries that we get. So we need to just be a little bit more laser focused on actually let's really go a bit deeper with these particular partners because they're the ones that can help us and help our clients. I think I've always loved the kind of peer-to-peer learning piece, particularly with agencies, and I'm really excited to take that into the e-commerce market, e.g. 6 owner founders round a table, Chatham House rules. Let's talk about wins and challenges and how we can help. I'm really excited to deliver those sessions, and I think they'll provide great value, and hopefully they gain the traction that we expect them to. But I think aside from marketing and sales, which is obviously it's easy to talk about that side because it's a side we enjoy so much. So it's just you always focus on it, but it's the bits you don't enjoy so much, whether it be the process piece or that kind of thing. It's how we can really sharpen up those areas as well. Because at the end of the day, it's all well and good doing stuff at the front of the funnel, but you've got to make sure that when they come in, that they're onboarded correctly, discovery calls are done correctly, etc., etc. And so, yeah, having some really interesting conversations with the team at the moment about just refining the process a little into pre-discovery and discovery. So can you have a call before you go into a discovery session where you just that's your time to kind of really think big picture, but actually when it comes to discovery, it's much more focused, e.g., okay, how many pages are we having? What does the structure look like? What is the functionality? This isn't your time to say, okay, well, maybe we should have this and maybe you should have that. This is what you're going to have and this is why. Let's build it out and then let's get that spec and let's make that crystal clear. And then let's go through into the process, because otherwise you go from having you could do this, could do this, could do this, to suddenly, okay, you're building it now. We mentioned we might do this. Well, are we doing this or not doing this? So that's a part that needs to be tightened up. I think in terms of the account manager project management piece, we've moved to a sprint methodology, which I'm quite excited about, e.g. fortnightly check-ins with the clients. And I'm encouraged by how that's looking. I think you guys went through an exercise yourselves around sometimes less is more in terms of volume of clients. Absolutely. And that's something we found as well, is that having 50, 60 clients is wonderful. And I love I'm such a yes man. I need to improve the ability to say no, because too often we're saying, yeah, we can help you there and we can help you there. And it's nice to be able to help people and solve their problems. But actually, it comes at an opportunity cost. And the opportunity cost is that you can't then service we're talking to someone at the moment about 100-hour a month retainer. And that's the kind of projects that you really want to be getting your teeth stuck into. There's so much we can do to help that business, but it's difficult when you've got lots of different smaller clients around that you've got to support. So question for you, how did you go through that process? Because that's quite an emotional exercise to go through in terms of, okay, some of these clients might have been with you from day dot. How do you then go through saying, you know what, we're actually going to go for 30 clients paying X a year as opposed to 70 clients paying Y?
Yeah. That's a great question. I mean, the truth is we're still in that process. I think it's never a destination. I think on paper, there's this idea of, okay, we have this many clients paying this amount and, a percent, like a couple that play a lot, and then it sort of goes down in lots of beautiful numbers that, divisible very easily and very simple to work out. No, we've still got a handful of clients, and we've had, there's clients that pay us very little, that pay us like $1,000 a month or something, that we've had for 10 years. And we don't want to get rid of them because they're loyal to us and we're still doing great work to them. So I think what we do then is actually, you get client churn over a period of time anyway. So we keep the ones that we like. And actually, if the guys enjoy doing the work and we're not over servicing them, it's not the end of the world. It's when you get small clients that you over service, so the day rate drops dramatically, that becomes a problem when it lowers the day rate. When it doesn't lower the day rate so much, and even though the day rate's slightly lower because they're a legacy client, then it's okay. We're just super strict on the front end now. So we're just like, this is, we're only taking clients on of this size.
And I think that's the bit we've really got to learn, actually. And it's lovely to see Martin Reynolds join us this morning, a good friend of both of ours. And he's saying his biggest issue is saying no. And I can absolutely relate to that. I think the challenge comes in that, like you say, a lot of these people you've been on a journey with for 2, 3, 4 years, and you're really ingrained in their business. They know a lot about you, you know a lot about them. And actually, I don't want to sever that relationship. I don't mind if they pay a lesser hourly rate, because actually I enjoy the work. And that's the biggest balance we've got to strike, is actually, on one hand, you've got to think commercially, but on one hand, the team and yourself have got to enjoy the work that you do. So having those clients that you have a good relationship with, that you can say, okay, they've got an appetite for growth. And that's a big thing, is you want to be working with brands that are hungry to push to the next stage. And we're very fortunate that a lot of the clients we're working with at the moment do have that appetite to go from where they are now to maybe the next level. Whereas it's those that just want to tick along, well, they're the frustrating ones, right? Because they've got fixed budgets, they don't want to do anything, they don't want to try anything, they just want to essentially manage and maintain, and that's not the kind of brand that I think we're best fit for.
No, I think, and I mean, we've got ones that don't want to grow, but they're lovely people, and I think that ultimately, agency, we're selling relationships, and we're also, to get people to join our agency, we're selling relationships as well. Join us and you'll get to do interesting work with really lovely people. And, if we can't have the interesting work piece of this is going to grow exponentially and we can enter it for our next Google award or whatever, at least they need to be lovely people and just a pleasure to work with. And I think those should be the things. I mean, going to Martin's point about saying no, there's obviously the book I've banged on about a couple of times, Essentialism. And in that, he talks about the 90% rule, right? Which is, unless you're 90% plus excited about it, then the answer is no. So the default answer to everything's almost no. Or hell yeah. Those are the two. There's no more. Yeah, okay. I'm sort of 70%.
And have you applied that to your personal life as well, in terms of that essentialism around 90? If you're not 90% sure, you just say no, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a difficult thing. I'm leaving there's a local community group on the parish council that I've been part of, and I love them to bits. They're great guys, but I'm still recovering from long COVID. I can only do so many hours, and it's not as exciting as the other stuff I want to do. And at the minute, I've had to flip my priorities. Like 2 years ago, my priorities were work, family, health. And now it's health, family, work. And that's been liberating. Last week, someone asked me to speak on a webinar in front of, I think 50 other agencies. And it coincided with a doctor's appointment. And I just thought, no, my priorities are health, relate family, then work. So that's so I said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Turned it down, and that was a great opportunity. And that's the painful thing. That's hard. That's actually what I believe hard work is, because easy work is just working hard, right? Easy work is just staying in front of your computer and just saying yes to everything and just constantly being addicted to the screen. Hard work is actually, I'm going to put an hour with my son in the garden ahead of a potentially it could be a good opportunity, but I'm not going to have that meaningful conversation, or I'm not going to speak at that webinar. I'm not going to. I know it's quite counter to what Spencer teaches, and Spencer teaches something very true, that the harder you work, generally speaking, the luckier you get. But as you get further into your journey, when you start up and you don't know anyone, you can't be as selective. But as you get a bigger network, you then have to be careful. So going back to what you're saying about agency partners, I'm not that interested in many more partners, because we've got we have other types of partners, but agency partners, we've got some really lovely deep relationships, like with you or with Kyan,
Sure.
kind of like, and I didn't do an agency partnership with Kyan hoping for work. Like Laurel and I just got on really well, and we supported each other through challenging times. But after 3 years, we know each other and we know our agencies so well, and our team's been introduced to each other, that it's just naturally work is just flowing. Yeah. And I think there's, you can have lots of quick conversations with people over lunch club or whatever, and they go like about 2 millimeters deep, but actually you want to go 2 miles deep on a relationship, and just, and it needs to be mutually beneficial. You understand them more, so you can help them more, and vice versa. So it's just doing less better, but that's hard work. It's actually harder to say no and to really focus and do less. than it is just to reply to every email, keep your inbox empty, ignore family, ignore health. That's easy. And then people bullshit and say, "Oh, I'm working hard, I'm busy," but they're actually being quite lazy mentally.
Well, it's interesting because last week, I thought of you actually. Nicky and I went to Bicester Village, and we just had the most amazing day off. Like no email, no just quickly responding to people, no just quick slacks or anything like that. Just put the phone on airplane mode, and it was just the nicest day. It was really nice to switch off, relax, and think about other things, and just be present in the moment. And that's something I think I'm really guilty of, and would like to improve. Is that we're far too busy trying to do everything for everybody and fix everyone else's problems, and actually you're not often present in that very moment. Your mind's always on something else. So it was really nice just to have no distractions and just to think about and enjoy the moment, and with a cracking day. And I think that's a goal I'd like to take into the next quarter. Certainly we've got, again, proof will be in the pudding again this Friday, where we're hoping to take a day off, and it'll be the same thing. Like, how can we just switch everything off and just enjoy the day? And nothing's going to set fire. Everyone will be okay, as long as expectations are managed both internally and externally. That it's not a once upon a time it might have been, oh, if there's an emergency, call me. But it's like, unless there's a serious like, what's your definition of an emergency? For me, it's like, okay, the building is literally on fire. If it's just a situation, well, then you've got people in the business to handle that.
Yeah, but even then, I don't need to know. I'll find out on Monday. Like, you know what I mean? Like the fight, I can't do anything. I'm not a firefighter. Like, if the building's on fire, then the people in the building
call 999.
Yeah, like exactly. It's it's that old joke where you put like an emergency call, and the joke is, we'll put doctor. What the fuck's my mum going to do? But it's, I mean, it's that thing. There is no reason. I'm having this with Rebecca because she's exhausted today. She's taking the day off because she's overdone it a bit, bless her. And it's like, look, let's literally, because she's been taking what's called fake-cations. The Americans have it, a fake-cation. It comes from another book, which you may have come across. Have you seen this one by the guys that set up base camp?
I'm not sure.
I don't think so. This is a little bit evangelical because they're all like, we're base camp, we don't have goals, and we're really like, there's some stuff doesn't really resonate with me. But they have a whole section called fake-cations that business owners do, where you say, I'm on holiday, a vacation, but it's a fake one because I check email once a day, and I'm on call in case there's an emergency. And if you have any, you just have to, like, someone said to me years ago, an entrepreneur who's very successful said to me, if you're a business owner and you're busy and stressed, you're doing your job badly. And that always stuck with me. He goes, you're doing your job wrong. You're doing your job badly. You're not a real business owner because you can't fucking delegate. And I was like, whew, but it's true. Like, and the thing that you said earlier on that I was going to pick you up on is you kind of said, oh, I'm excited about the sales and marketing. I really like that bit. Then there's the other stuff of the process and all the rest of it that I don't enjoy, but I have to do. My question is, what would have to be true for you not to do that?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment we divided the business into different swim lanes with different founders, and that's I mean, those guys are better in those areas than myself. They enjoy those areas more than myself. I think the thing is, it's a process of letting go, and actually sometimes you're your worst own enemy. Why is the diary busy? Well, not because anyone else makes it busy, but because I don't say no enough. So I don't have enough discipline to say, yeah, I'm not going to take that meeting, or I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to get involved in that process meeting unnecessarily. There doesn't need 3 founders in a process meeting. Like, it's crazy, but it's just because I don't want to let go, or I want to have a say in everything that goes on, and then you've only got yourself to blame. So I think that's a big thing, is how you can make sure that you have your swim lanes, but then you stick to them. But then you have to have trust and faith that, that it might not be done the way you want it to be done, but it will still be done. And nothing's irreversible, but at the same time, you're your own worst enemy if you just keep parachuting in to try and solve or save every situation, which sometimes doesn't even need to be solved or saved.
So the big realization I had, why all sort of 4 founders at Fountain over the last 18 months have sort of not burnt out, but struggled with just stress and overdoing it. Or my one was long COVID, but I probably wouldn't have long COVID if I wasn't stressed out. Is I realized that the 4 of us were making all the decisions together. So all of the problems of the business were being considered by all 4 of us. Whereas what we've done now is we've got the management team in, but we've also, like your thing, we've got lanes. We call them executive responsibilities. So, like, I might know that the sales conversion rate has been lower the last couple of months, but that Rob's in charge of sales, so him and Rachel and the BD team, that's their problem. Like, I'm before I'd be like, right, let me get involved. I've got lots of ideas. and then I'm taking it on, and then Rebecca's taking it on, and Laura's, and it's like, actually, that's just Rob's challenge, and Rob's bloody good, and we just give him the space, and he's going to do a cracking job. Same with the marketing. Like, actually, we misspent some media spend this month on our own marketing. We didn't get as many leads as we have done in previous doing LinkedIn advertising. I was like, oh shit. But I don't need Rob, Rebecca and Laura kind of breathing down my neck or like coming in and trying to solve it for me. That's my thing to just discuss with Deco and Chrissy Reeve and say, what should we do next time? How should we play it? And help mentor them and bring them up. And actually, since we've been doing that, and it's Gary Mansell that brought that in, by the way, so shout out to Gary. But since we've been doing that with the exec responsibilities, it's been so relaxing because I haven't had to worry about HR stuff because that's Rebecca's bag. I haven't had to worry about over-servicing and operations because that's Laura's exec responsibility. And I'm not dumbing down. We've got a team of people who actually, an agency growth team. So it's Laura's responsibility. The buck stops with her. But obviously, Dave Starkey's doing an amazing job of doing ops and so on. But my point is that there's only a limited number of things I have to worry about. And my God, it's liberating.
What would happen, though, if the decisions you're making are impacting the business further down the line? So, for example, you're going to decide that actually Fountain no longer supports pharma clients and software as a service and all that good stuff. You're suddenly going to go after sports just because it's a massive passion of yours. Now, you've been given that responsibility as the marketing team to come up with that, but actually you bring it through, you recreate the proposition, you redo all the marketing materials, etc. But then you drive that into the business. What happens then? Because surely then someone will have something to say.
Sorry. There's a distinction between like negation and abandonment. Like I know the sales conversion rate, and the guys know our target audiences. So if I want to change that, I'll take that to the board meeting and say, hey guys, I've been working with Deco and Chris. We've got a new direction we want to start pointing our ads at and our thought leadership. What do you think? And they'll say, yeah, probably, or I think really, but that's not necessarily the stressful thing. The strategies are very rarely stressful when it's blue sky and it's relaxing. The thing that's been stressful was when problems arise, right? When there's a HR issue. So, an employee's doing something which is gross misconduct and we have to go through HR law, blah, blah, blah. Like previously, we would all sit around as a forum and like brainstorm it and, really try. But all four of us would be feeling the fight or flight emotions, the cortisol, the adrenaline, all the shit that makes us ill.
Yeah.
If we have too much of it, we'd be feeling that because we're and I think like when you set up the business and there's like 5 staff and a couple of founders, you have to be involved in all of that. Gary Mansell talks about his rules of 2, and it's sort of like it's 2 million or 2 years, whichever comes first. And once you get to 2 million, like you're a different beast, so you have to let go. But you're on that path anyway, even if you're at sort of 1 mil. The truth is, like, you're over a couple of years old, you've got a lot of players, so it's sticking in your lane, and like you say, just trusting the guys and letting go. And the thing is, like, when you let go, actually they'll have the space to figure it out themselves, because a lot of it goes back to the book I recommended on our last session, Multipliers. Your job actually as a business owner is to put others on stage and help them be the best they can be, not you swoop in with your cape on and solve all the problems. Which is fucking hard, because in the first few years you have to solve all the problems because you're the only one who's really there.
I guess that bit would be one I'm keen to explore a bit further, because actually, part of it is around personal brand, and actually a lot of the stuff we do is probably guilty of being a bit like the Nathan Show, because you're always the one on stage and you're always the one saying things, and yet we know that it's right for the business to do less of that. But at the same time, I guess, how do you go about that without there's going to be a gap, right, between putting someone on stage and you being on stage. That gap there, you still got to maintain pipeline and everything else.
So I mean stages in internally, like giving them the responsibility to solve the problem.
Okay, so rather than parachuting on and saying, okay, I'm going to save this client fire or whatever, actually it's over to you guys. Just report back on what you think is going to be the right solution.
Yeah, I mean, look, definitely I'm going to set it as a harder goal for you to read Multipliers, because I know I sent you the link 2 months ago.
Yeah, I got it.
But I definitely listen to that Audible or just buy the book. I mean, the book's probably easier because it's got tables at the back of each chapter, so you can probably cover it in like half an hour and you'll get the sense. The Audible's quite long and the narration's a bit boring, to be completely honest with you. But the thing should be studied because it's not just one person's view. It's sort of like a really long, deep study of 1,500 leaders in Silicon Valley, and those who get the most out of their teams, who are the multipliers, versus those who are diminishers, who actually reduce the collective IQ of their teams. So I think you need to switch more from I swoop in and solve everything to I'm the coach, so I'm going to help them figure it out, because that way they'll make fewer mistakes. It's so difficult. I'm going for this as well, and it is difficult. And I actually said because one of my exec responsibilities as the marketing guys is Chrissy Reeve and Deco, and I said to them in the last meeting, I said, look guys, we're changing this now. You have 51% of the vote, I have 49. And they're like, really? I was like, yeah. They said, and then Deco tried to say, well, hold on a second, that means that actually we all have 33% really. I said, no. All right, Deco. Because Chris does the social media, but it's mainly Deco's department. I said, let Deco, you have 51%. So if me and Chris want to do something, you can veto it and say, no, we're doing it this way. You are in charge. But I'm just here to coach you and offer suggestions. Some will be hard suggestions that I think you really should take on board. Others will be soft, like, here's a couple of ideas. And I'll just let it go. And actually, our working relationship has been much better. And actually, he's doing so far good work.
That must be such a hard thing to entertain. Is almost letting go of the baby and saying, you know what, it's yours to shape and mold, and you'll be there to support. But at the same time, you are giving full.
And it's like, but I think truthfully, if I don't do that, if I don't give them the extra voting right, then then their job is a different job. They're not being the best they can be. They're being, how can I kind of either placate Marcus, or how can I keep Marcus happy, or how can I keep Marcus off my back, or how could, you know what I mean? And also, they don't always think for themselves then as well. They'll pick up the phone quicker because they've got me to keep happy. Whereas if it's like, look, guys, we'll measure the outcomes. Like the market will decide whether our content is good enough, and I will find the best, suppliers, the best budget to get the outcomes. But I want you to drive it, because I really want Deco. I'm sure him mind me saying, I really want him to be our head of marketing and to sit up there on the agency growth team and to really run an amazing department. And he's got the potential, and he will get there soon. But I realise that perhaps I'm holding him back if I'm having to kind of come in and interrupt and give my opinions all the time. But it's hard. But I think that's, given the data and multipliers of the best leaders, that's what's been proven to work better. And you think of any big company, like eventually the leaders, like the overall vision is, and the values are still fountains, are still the founders. But how all the tasks are done on the day to day, they're going to have to be taken away. And chat to Gary Mansell about it. He always said that he got to a stage with trade extensions that people were doing things that he didn't really agree with, or he hated the direction, but he understood that they have ownership, and as long as they're not causing problems. I mean, Dan Gilbert talks about that with Brain Labs, doesn't he? He talks about letting people make mistakes, but obviously they're about to make a big one. You come in, but it's about coaching and mentoring and getting the best out of people, and also, and that way you can just do what's right, what you enjoy, because no one enjoys micromanaging and chasing and not trusting, and but it's interesting. The more I've noticed, the more I've put belief into people and said, I believe you can do this. Here's a few people to chat to, here's some books, here's some time, get on with it, and I think you can do a great job. But you can get on with stuff without having to check in with me. They seem to do better than when I'm like, right, here's the 10 things I think you should do, and why aren't you doing it the way I thought so? And it's and it's hard, but then that's where the hard work comes in. It's not in doing more hours. The hard work is doing less, doing the bits you enjoy, having time to look after yourself so you don't burn out and enjoy life, because when you're happier and more fulfilled, you'll have better insights and be better at business. But that's hard work. So you've got to say no. You've got to be stricter with yourself. Hard work isn't doing more hours. That's lazy. That's fucking lazy.
One of the things we've talked about before is that you set a strategy with Gary, and essentially that was it. And because one of the challenges I guess we have, and with myself particularly, is that you're always listening to something else or talking to someone else or having a conversation with someone else, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that thing that we've just told you all to do, we're going to change it because we think this is better, or we want to do that. How do you go about just setting your strategy and then leaving it and just saying, look, this is how we do it, and if we want to review it, maybe we'll review it in 6-12 months?
Well, we wrote it down on a doc, and then we stick to it, and it evolves, right?
Yeah.
So but truthfully, the bits that evolve are more like the content. Like, oh, let's do this sort of content, which there's a looser brief there, but
the framework is still very much the same.
But we're targeting pharma and SaaS, and we're creating thought leadership content that's really valuable for them. And that still stays the same. And truthfully, like also like we know what we need to do, and like Spencer Gallagher has written the book Agency Nomics, like that works. That there's not going to be this brand new thing where it's like, let's all get on cold calling or something, because that works nowhere near as well. But I mean, there are new things like Clubhouse, right? Let's play with Clubhouse and let's do that. But
how have you found Clubhouse?
I haven't jumped on the bandwagon. Sorry, I just dropped my pen on the floor. I haven't jumped on the bandwagon. I can't be fucked. It's not. Rebecca's enjoying it. She's doing it for thought leadership around culture. I just, again, I said no, because I've only got a limited number of hours and I don't really want another distraction.
I'll be interested to see how many brands are on there versus agencies on there. It seems to be quite saturated with entrepreneurs and founders, and that's excellent, but they seem to all be in the agency space. There's a lot of familiar faces, which is lovely, but it's like, actually, how many of the target audience are actually on this platform and listening to the content and digesting it?
I see these things as they're just other forms of networking, right? So
it's another touch point, right? If someone sees you on there, and
like what we're doing now, it's just a form of networking, and letting people know you exist, and that you've got ideas that could be valuable to them or to their network. So I don't see it as anything revolutionary. So I think you've got the strategy. You'll probably have it more formalized after your Cactus Day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think you just stick to it, and you get employees that stick to it and evolve it slightly, but you just don't go all over the place. And I think that's going to be your next challenge is the discipline side of things, which is great, 'cause you've gone so quickly, mate. But what you were saying in the first part of this call, we can watch it back afterwards, it just sounded to me like, yeah, you've got it. And I thought the biggest challenge for you is going to be burning out, getting distracted and trying lots of new different things. And not delegating enough, but we covered those things.
I think that's definitely one of the main things, is that ability to delegate and kind of delegate and support, as opposed to just abandoning ship and just then being like, oh, why didn't you do that? Well, crumbs, you gave me some pretty loose instructions and then you didn't follow up with me, as opposed to I arranged a check-in a week later and we saw how you're getting on, but less of me talking and more of me listening. And I think that's a big transition with the team over the next 3 to 6 months, is how we can do far less talking and much more listening, and then just guide people to make their own decisions and hold up the mirror, as opposed to saying, oh, well, here's what I think is best and I want you to follow this.
Absolutely. So here's a funny thing for you. Imagine this. So I think you're one of the best networkers I know. I think that's what you're fucking good at, right? You're really good at networking. Imagine if you're as good at delegating as you were at networking, in terms of just your raw abilities, skills, practice, everything. And then how would your life and business look in 6 months if you were at that level? Because you admitted that's a weakness. Now, it could be a weakness. It's a harder weakness to get better at. But if you take the same energy and zest and Lomax enthusiasm that we all love into being the best delegator and coach, I think is probably a nice way, because I'm reframing it as coaching. I'm not like, just take all my stuff, I don't want it. It's more like, okay, this is part of your job role to be able to do these things, and I want you to be the best you can be, so you don't need to keep checking in with me. But if you got as good as, and the same with me, right? I'm fairly good at networking, but if I was as good as those things, and you have to prioritize the networking, of course, because you need leads and so on. But if you were as good as that, what would your business look like in 6 months? And how many more days with Nikki in the sunshine could you have? And then how much
more?
Yeah, right. But it's not you being lazy. Like, I want to sit in the sunshine, because you will have really beautiful insights about where to take Quickfire next and how to handle the challenges of Quickfire. You'll bring your best self to the work, and it'll be a virtuous cycle, a self-fulfilling cycle of, I delegate more, so I've got more time, so I feel happier, which means I can bring better insights, which means I can delegate more to execute those insights, to be happier and take more time, and it just gets better and better.
Just on that piece, let's say you're right at the very start of your delegation journey, and you're like, okay, so I'm looking at my diary today and I go, crumbs, okay, I got far too much, I've got to start delegating. The first thing you've got to find, I guess, is the person to delegate it to. And so you've got to look at resource. And so I guess the first challenge is making sure you've got the resource to back up the delegation, because what you don't want to do is just delegate to somebody that's already got too much on, and then you've got a challenge. What do you do in those times at Fountain, when actually the person that you come up with something that you're looking at your diary and you think, you know what, I've delegated a lot of this, but now I want to delegate this module here, but actually the person you want to delegate it to is already at capacity? Is it then a hiring challenge to then get that person in to then delegate, or actually do you do something else?
This is where I go to my amazing project managers or Dave Starkey and say, but I normally think in my mind who would really enjoy this, rather than who can I give it to. And then I ring up Dave and say, do they have capacity? And then I sell it in of like, this could be really fun. And they normally, and it is, I mean, on the higher level stuff, which is more of the challenge, right? Because there's stuff that you can give to a team member, but there's a lot of stuff as a director you do, which you can't. Yep. And obviously, as our founders, what we've got in our executive, our document of executive responsibilities is we have a backup. So, for example, Rebecca's going to take a holiday in a couple of weeks. And I'm saying it can't be a fakecation. It's got to be complete, no work, no emails.
Yeah, proper switch off.
She says Alice has got a couple of challenging things coming up that week. And Rebecca's executive responsibility is to mentor Alice and the agency growth team. Therefore, I will have my phone on that day for Alice. And I said, no, you won't, because if you look at on our executive responsibility list, who's the backup for when you're sick to mentor the agency growth team? Well, that's me. Great. So I will take those calls from Alice. And she was like, okay. And so we've already got that pre-planned. If there's an environmental thing, Rob's my backup. I know that Rob's my backup for the marketing as well, and I think he's backup for sales. So we can also say, look, I'm really fucking stressed. I'm not sleeping. I've got all this going on, and we can just lift up our hand up to our co-founder and say, can you help? So you have those people already in the plan to turn to, and you just got a list, and that makes it much easier. Because it's hard. Because when you talked about, I open my calendar on a Monday and say, oh crumbs, you're too late. You should have foreseen this problem, days ago, if not weeks, right? You should never be in that situation. So it's a project management problem. It's discipline and project management. That's all it is. And it's just saying, like, I know, like after this call, I have nothing in until 2:30, and so I'm going to literally switch everything off. I'm going to be in the sunshine, get a bit more burnt, but just be, because I've overdone it this morning. I need to be careful. But the hardest thing is cancelling on people. I cancelled on someone at 5 o'clock on Friday because I wasn't feeling it, and I could tell he was quite upset. He's like, I really miss you. We need to catch up. It's important. He's an important person to me and to Fountain. I felt really bad, but I thought, actually, this is it. Like, it wasn't 90%, it was like 70, and I've got to put my health first and my family.
And there's no reflection on that person, right? It's purely that yourself, and actually allowing yourself to be a little bit more, not quite selfish in its purest term, but essentially you have to think about yourself sometimes, not just everyone else.
Yeah, well, all the time. I think that when you're on an airplane, it says put your air mask on first before helping anyone else. And in business, we're like running out of oxygen, trying to put everyone else's masks on, and we're not. And this guy in question, like, I'm going to speak to him not this week, the week after, but I'm going to book out a whole afternoon. It's been a really good time, really just reconnecting with him and having a lovely conversation. So it's actually better quality than it would have been had I rushed it on a Friday when I was feeling a bit COVIDy and headachy. Yeah. But I realised, like, I really wanted to chat to him as well. I was looking forward to it, and I felt shit cancelling because I've moved him twice already. But once I speak to him and tell him here's what I was going through, he'll know. I had to prioritise health because I haven't, and look where I am now. So I'm kind of you from the future, Lomax. I'm sort of the ghost of
the ghost of Christmas past, or whatever they call it.
Christmas future. So
Christmas future.
Yeah, like, honestly, for the first 34 years of my life, I never had any health issues, none whatsoever. And then I had mini burnout when I was 34, and then I had long COVID when I was 35. So there you go, after sort of 12, 13 years running a business. So I'm here to warn you. But also, like, why should you learn lessons the hard way when you've got friends who have been through them, right? I mean, that's why you have Gary and Spencer as well.
That's the importance of mentors, right? Is that so you can learn from those that have been there, seen it, done it. And the biggest thing is then implementing it and being accountable for implementing it. Because as we said earlier on this call, it's so easy to be busy. We can just, I've got a tab up here with emails. I can see them just trickling in, WhatsApp, Slacks, whatever. They're coming in at all angles, but it's how you can just manage expectations. I think I've almost sometimes been guilty of responding too quickly to things. And then you set a precedence that now you're expected to get back within 20 minutes. And actually it's impossible. Like, you need time to think and digest the question, as opposed to just firing back a response that might be right short term, but not long term.
Yeah, the hardest thing, you've got to overcome that sort of dopamine excitement of, I'll just get back to that, and you've got to be able to let that go. So you have to slow down naturally to not get caught into that dopamine sort of trap. And the truth is, like, everyone knows that. Sometimes you've sent an email, you haven't been feeling great, you've been feeling angry, and you go, I'll sleep on it. And then the next day you read the email and go, that's shit. And you write a new one that's much better and more appropriate. So I think that's it. Just to wrap up, mate, I've got your goals from our last session. That's why I can run through them quickly. You know what's really cool is we've kind of covered them. I think they come up naturally. But so you wrote an email saying, hi, mate, thanks as ever for your time on Monday. Here are my action points. Number 1, to refocus on white space, or certainly blocks of time where there's no meetings at all, and space for creative thinking. So how much white's in your calendar at the minute, Mr. Lomax?
Not enough. What I've done is again, just on the topic of today's call, we've had an account director due to join that ended up not joining, and therefore the roles and responsibilities that would have been picked up by that individual, I've kind of done that classic of, oh, don't worry, I'll pick those up. And essentially I've filled every waking minute of every day with that, and that's really poor. And yeah, okay, there might be a recruitment challenge, and okay, we need to go and hire someone else, but I'm also really conscious that I want to hire the right people. We've talked a lot about A players. It's easy to recruit, but recruiting the right people is tough. And so I'm just being much more fussy, but the solution isn't, okay, just pick up everything that's kind of dropped because of that person not involved. There must be another way to do that, which is, okay, there's 3 founders, we can share the responsibility, or we can talk to the team and share it that way, as opposed to saying, oh, don't worry. The quickest solution is, yes, I'll just take them on because I know what to do in that situation and I can handle them. But it comes at an opportunity cost, and that opportunity cost is no white space. So I would say particularly poorly with that one at the moment, and certainly something to work. It was going all right. I was feeling like the diary was a bit more managed, and Nick was really helping me with that. But even then, I've kind of given less access and kind of almost become a bit more insular, where I've kind of got my head in the sand and gone, no, I'll just do it and I'll just look after it. And I need to get back to how I was.
That's why we have the monthly calls, mate. So I can keep you back on track, and it's fine.
Exactly right.
Everyone does it. I've got an occupational therapist I work with, and she does exactly the same. And we realize, and it's cool because every time you have the realization, like after this, I know you'll take actions that are, okay, Fred, mine, like, can you guys take these bits? I'll give this person to someone else. Great. I'm going to cancel these few meetings and just have more white space, and just enjoy the sunshine with Nikki and see what occurs to me. Number 2, this is an interesting one, to show total vulnerability with the team after not leading by example in recent weeks. How's your vulnerability going?
Yeah, to be fair, okay. I think the biggest challenges that have started, I personally, as a character, don't believe there's such thing as oversharing. Like, I will say everything, and demonstrated by this call today, where actually we've given people a real insight into what's going on. And yeah, potentially someone could go and go, oh, you're telling everyone too much. And maybe we are, but actually what's the point in painting a false picture that isn't the reality? I think with the team, yeah, maybe I do share too much, or give people the opportunity to have decisions that perhaps should be at board level. But I think that's the right way to go. And that might be right, that might be wrong. But yeah, I think I'm good with being vulnerable with a team. I think sometimes I could work on maybe just, there's a difference between sharing information and making decisions. So share the information, get the feedback, but then take it back to the board to discuss and implement, as opposed to, okay, talk about it, discuss it, come up with a solution, now try and push it through. And actually we haven't gone back to the board to sign it off. And so maybe that's something that needs a bit of work. But yeah, I'd say vulnerability is good at the moment.
Good. No, I think there was one example where you felt you could have been more vulnerable, so you wanted to up your game just to connect with people, because vulnerability allows connection because you're being real. Number 3, to encourage others to lead the meetings across the team. So this is the coaching and encouraging piece.
Yeah, and we've done that a bit in the marketing meeting. I would say we've slipped into a bit of bad habits in terms of limited. Whenever time seems limited, there seems to be a default response of just talk and fill the gaps, and don't allow there to be silence. So I think I need to get better at that. Certainly around when we're in the marketing meetings. Nemo's a marketing manager. She needs to have the chance to run it, and I'm there to assist, as opposed to me running it and her assisting. In terms of the internal conversations, I get frustrated by lack of pace, and that's something I also need to work on. Is sometimes quick isn't always good, and so it's just like, okay, let's agree this, right? What's the next point? Okay, let's get this nailed. Okay, what's the solution? Right, that's the next point. And actually, sometimes people haven't had chance to properly think about it or come up with what they think is right. And just because I like to work at a certain pace, it doesn't mean everyone else does.
No.
And that's something I really need to get better at, is being more understanding of those that want to work at a, it's not even a lesser pace, it's just a different pace. It doesn't mean it's better or worse, it's just different. And that's something I need to be much more accommodating for, both in kind of business life, but also in personal life with friends and family as well. Not everyone wants to operate at a million mile an hour, and I need to be accepting of that.
Yeah, no, I'm learning that the hard way. I naturally move fast, and my 360 feedback from the team members the year before last was, you just move too fast, slow down. It's not even that they've actually got a slower way of thinking. It's more a considered, and actually
Yeah.
a lot of the time that's actually better.
And a lot of this stuff isn't intended, right? It's not like you're purposely talking quick or making decisions or whatever. You're just natural to you, but you just got to be conscious that what's natural to you might not be natural.
It must be hard for them because we are the decision makers, right? So, oh, you've paused. Oh no. I think I'm live by myself on Nathan's live feed. Maybe I'll just talk to all of Nathan's friends while he tries to get back on.